tell someone some incredible news, like you got a promotion at work, perhaps your project finally worked, or your channel is finally growing. They smile, congratulate you, and say, "Wow, congratulations." But there's just something about this whole interaction that feels off. Perhaps their smile feels insincere, or there's a delay in their response. Or maybe, as soon as you tell them, they immediately launch into how great their life is going. Well, the reality is, not everyone who congratulates you is doing it because they're happy about you. Sometimes it's the competition. And sometimes, psychology even reveals that when someone is intimidated by our success, their body language reveals it in ways they cannot even conceal. Today we're going to discuss 5 different ways in which someone might be secretly competing with our success. And our first sign is one that everyone feels intuitively, but no one understands. Psychologists who study nonverbal communication, as well as those who study how we react when comparing ourselves to others, have found that even though people might be verbally expressing support, their body language, reactions, and even their conversations reveal how they really feel. And once you become aware of these, you'll see these everywhere. So, let's take a look at our first sign. So, our first sign is what we can call the Mirage of Support. This is when someone congratulates us, but their body language reveals how they really feel. So, whenever you tell someone some good news, and they congratulate you, but for a brief moment, right before their congratulations, their face reveals how they really feel, like it's a wrinkling of their nose, or it's pursed lips, or maybe it's even a flash of contempt. Psychologists call these micro-expressions. They are just fractions of a second long, but they are often the key to understanding the emotion that person was feeling before their brain could catch up and hide it. Another sign is the delayed reaction. When someone is truly celebrating your success, their response is instantaneous. But if they are conflicted about your success, there is often a delay. A delay in their response, a delay in their reaction, a delay as their brain adjusts from the way they feel about you and your success to the way they know they should react to you and your success. And yet another intriguing aspect is that this mirage of support is not limited to physical life, but is also reflected in virtual life. Look at their social media responses. Do they always watch your posts about your success, but never respond? Or do they respond with a like long after everyone else has commented? In the virtual life of the present day, such behavior could often be an indication of deeper resentments. But there is yet another sign that is even more intriguing. Because sometimes competition is not reflected in distance, but is reflected in imitation. The second sign is another intriguing one. Psychologists call this sign hostile mimicry. At first, it appears to be admiration. The other person is imitating your style, your choice of words, your way of life. But there is just something about this imitation that doesn't feel right, that feels almost as if they are trying to neutralize the very qualities that make you different from them. And this could often develop into an identity theft phenomenon. Suddenly, this person is doing exactly the same things you are doing. If you are starting a business project, they are starting the same business project. If you are pursuing an opportunity, they are pursuing the exact same opportunity, not because it inspires them, but because they want to prove that they can achieve it faster or better. And over time, this imitation creates a strange feeling, like you're watching someone try to imitate your identity, but in the process of helping you, they're actually trying to help themselves. And once you realize this, you can't help but see the imitation everywhere. But sometimes, the competition is not through imitation. Sometimes, the competition is through something even less noticeable: silence. The third sign of competition is what we can call strategic silence. Imagine you share your major milestone with someone. Maybe you get a promotion. Maybe you achieve something significant. And instead of celebrating your victory, they suddenly go silent. Maybe they look at their phone. Maybe they change their posture. This is called the vacuum effect. You share your positive news, and suddenly the room becomes silent. Psychologists have described this phenomenon. The other sign of this strategic silence is the subject pivot. Imagine you share your news. Maybe you share your promotion. And suddenly the topic changes. Maybe they start talking about something unrelated. Maybe they start talking about themselves. And sometimes the competition can be even more subtle. Maybe they use something called the dampener. Maybe they mention a potential danger. Maybe they remind you of your past failure, not in a mean-spirited way, but in a way that makes you feel like you're less excited about your victory. And this leads us to another interesting pattern, because sometimes the competition is not through silence. Sometimes the competition is through stories. A humble request. If you like our content and want to learn more about these hidden psychological patterns, consider liking and sharing the video, and do not forget to subscribe as well. Now let's discuss the fourth sign. So the fourth sign is the one-up narrative. This is when every time you share something good that's happening in your life, it gets trumped by something even better. So you say, "I just finished a huge project," and the other person responds with, "Oh yeah, I did something similar last year, but it was much bigger." Psychologists even give this a technical name, the Me Too anecdote. Every moment is a little game of one-upmanship. But what's really interesting is that sometimes the tone will give it away. Their tone will get louder. Their tone will get more energetic. Their posture will even straighten up. Their gestures will even get bigger. It's the body's way of trying to compensate for status. But there's another form of the one-up narrative called competitive empathy. So when you share something stressful that's happening in your life, instead of offering empathy, they'll use the opportunity to brag about how well they handled something similar. It sounds like they're being supportive. But what they're really doing is saying, "I handled it better." So the last thing to do is to figure out what to do about it. So what do you do when you think that the other person is subconsciously competing with your success? Psychologists say that the first thing to do is to not react. One thing that's really interesting is to test the reaction. So you say something small, and then you pay attention to the reaction. Sometimes you'll even notice that the other person's posture will shift. Their arms will even cross. Their eyes will even drop. Their tone will even shift. But another thing that's really effective is to maintain what psychologists call a low information diet. This simply means that you share fewer personal updates with people who consistently display these behaviors, not out of hostility, but out of self-protection, because constant comparison can slowly drain your creative and emotional energy. Eventually, many people opt to move these relationships into a distant professional relationship instead. Sometimes that's exactly what will help protect your progress. Your success doesn't just prove what you're good at. It also reveals the unseen factors in relationships. Some people will rejoice in your progress, while others will measure themselves against it. But understanding these signals will help you identify the difference. So, if you enjoy content that digs into the unseen factors in human behavior, relationships, and social interactions, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, because once you're aware of these signals, you'll actually begin to understand people in a way most people never will.